Hi there, this is Tom Parmalee, the founder of funeralvision.com, and I'm here today with Dean Lambert, who many of you know in his former role with Homesteaders Life Company, where he spent almost 25 years. But now Dean is the executive director of the Life Insurers Council, and I'm thrilled to have him on Funeral Vision. Welcome, Dean.
Tom, it is good to see you again. Glad you're finding success with Funeral Vision. I enjoy getting your articles all the time. It not only is you've got great writing as usual. I'm not telling anything anybody doesn't know already, but also it keeps me connected to my beloved funeral profession.
Well, thank you so much, Dean, and thank you again for joining me here today. First, 25 years at Homesteaders, that is just, a tremendous accomplishment. I know you made a lot of connections. What do you value most about the time you spent there?
Well, I there are two things I can think of right off. There was a really close group of individuals who believed in me throughout my time with Homesteaders. They protected me from my self-sabotaging ways. I don't think I could ever thank them enough, especially for the gift. That's the other thing that I value about Homesteaders, which is a career with purpose and the ability to offer real value to people. Um, you know, uh, End of life considerations, pre-need, getting your funeral planned. It's a problem that really needs to be solved and discussed and addressed. And those people who do it continually, I mean, for decades with homesteaders have always said that they were glad they did it. And people who have planned their funeral always tell others that they should do it too. So I guess we'll talk later on a little bit about some of the challenges I think that are still there. But one thing is also the thing that I learned at Homesteaders is I tell this to younger people all the time. You don't have to find what you're meant to do right away. People think college is where you formulate your career purpose, which means if I'm not doing what I think I should be doing by the time I'm like 24 or 25, it's a bad thing. I mean, I totally disagree. I started out at McDonald's. I learned a lot of stuff there. I went to college. 5 years later, I still hadn't graduated, but I got a job in radio because I discovered I had an opportunity or a talent for being an on-air personality. But I also learned how to write commercials. Never knew I had a talent for advertising. I quit radio after about 10 years, started my ad agency. A couple years later, I got a call from a funeral home that wanted to market their firm in new ways. That exposed me to an entirely new profession, funeral home marketing. And then I met Homesteaders, which was an insurance company serving funeral homes. By the time I really figured out, that I was in a place where I was really contributing, I was 35 years old. And, the most important thing is have faith in yourself and the good people around you and kind of go with the flow and great things will happen. So those are the things I took away from Homesteaders, but it took a long time. It took, most of my career there to really start appreciating those things.
I think your story is similar to a lot of us. I think a lot of us are still in our 40s and 50s, and we're still trying to figure out what we're going to do. And
Yeah.
we're still, we're all works in progress.
Nothing
But
wrong with that. Yeah.
But to your current role, I remember when you first told me that you were leaving to become executive director of the Life Insurers Council. And I remember thinking, what is this group? Tell us a little bit more about it. I don't think, I think it flies under the radar for a lot of funeral professionals and they don't know what the organization is all about.
Sure.
So why don't you just share with us a little bit about it?
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm not surprised it flies under the radar because again, the funeral profession is not focused on insurance, even though a big part of their offering is funded by insurance or trust, which is pre-need. So I'll tell you a quick backstory. I was supposed to retire from Homesteaders at the end of August. That was my plan. I told the guys at Homesteaders 5 years ago that I had 5 years left of enthusiastic contribution. And Steve Schaefer is the CEO at the time, and Lyndon Peterson was my boss. And then along with my wife, they're like, "Who does that? Like, why are you giving me 5 years notice, you crazy person? Plus, you can't retire at 60 years old. What are you, crazy?" But again, the older you get, the longer you spend doing something that you're very passionate about and that you work really hard on, the more you realize, especially in this business, that time is short. And I figured there were other things I wanted to do. I still needed to make some money. So And in January, Steve Schaefer and I had a meeting, and just one of our regular meetings, and he says, "You're not really going to stop working, are you? I mean, you're not, you're not going to be a one income family, and you can't sit still. What really are you going to do?" And we talked a little bit, and I have been a member of the Life Insurers Council through Homesteaders through the Pre-Need Forum for 15 years. Jeff Shaw was the executive director before me, and I had thought Jeff retired a couple years ago. And Steve said that Jeff still hadn't found somebody to replace him. Steve happens to be the chairman of our advisory board at the LIC, and he said, "You should apply for this job. Get you off the payroll 6 months early if you get the job." And I really think it's something you would enjoy. And he was right. It's one of those things, Tom, where the stars and the planets all align. And it's like just the same thing was how I got to Homesteaders. You kind of have to just put your faith in the way the universe is going. So I applied for the job, learned about it. I knew some people because of my previous experience, and it turned out to be just the perfect thing. So I joined them in March, and it's been a great thing. So the Life Insurers Council is a networking association. It's especially for small to mid-sized life insurance companies where the senior executives or the leadership teams and their teams can exchange information and solutions to the challenges and opportunities that are unique to smaller insurance companies. We also have many fraternal life companies that belong. So I was introduced to the organization, I said about 15 years ago, and I got a lot of value networking with our prime competitors. The Pre-Need Forum that we'll talk about later that's coming up. We compete very heavily. We're always trading paint. Yet, as marketing people, we got together and we didn't disclose company secrets or do anything nefarious, but we have the same challenges, from distribution to investment rates to small advertising budgets. And we just every year got together and we got better for that. The Life Insurers Council has many groups like the Pre-Need Council. It's an association where we have about 20 virtual and in-person meetings annually, focusing on the various operational and product areas. We have annuities, we have actuarial, investment, laws and legislation, marketing. There's a home service group. There's a final expense group. And that's what we do. We have meetings and events where we come together, we network. We'll have some speakers. We'll have facilitated discussions on things, and everybody goes home with what they want to take out of the meeting. And we have probably 130 small insurance company members, and probably 30 affiliate members, which are vendors that support the small insurance companies. The LIC is part of LOMA, which a lot of firms that do pre-need might know, because LOMA is one of the biggest education service providers to the insurance industry. You've heard of the LOMA associations like the Fellow Life Management Institute and those. But we're both, the LIC and LOMA is part of LIMRA. And LIMRA is the largest trade association in the world that supports insurance and related financial services personnel. It's one of the most significant contributors to research in the insurance profession. They have solutions in the area of executive education, insurance immersion, compliance training, and market insights. So I am learning a ton about life insurance and financial services, and the LIC is just kind of a small part of it.
You've been there for a little while now.
Yep.
Do you have any particular goals as executive director? I know everyone brings their sort of own personality to an organization and have their own goals and whatnot. So what are some of yours?
Yeah. So my main goal is to provide solutions to business problems. But the funny thing is, as executive director, I'm more of a facilitator. So throughout my whole career in advertising and marketing and with Homesteaders, me or my team, we had to have answers. We had to have solutions. We had to come up with what to say or how to market and things like that. It's very different at the LIC. It's a member-centric organization. So it's not as incumbent upon me to have answers as much as it is to help my customers, our members, collaborate and to facilitate discussions that help them find solutions and answers that work best for them. My job is to, I guess, create the perfect environment where networking and learning can incubate and solutions can form and grow. Um, I'm naturally a change agent, which lots of folks know about me, for better or for worse. And so, I'd like to think that during my tenure, I can do some transformative things with the Life Insurers Council. But I got to be mindful that the LIC is very member centered. So their needs really come first. And I just keep throwing things out there. So if they bite, great. If not, again, that's really not why I'm there.
You mentioned the big pre-need forum you have coming up. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about it. Why should people come and tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. So the annual pre-need forum is being hosted in Madison, Wisconsin. Each year, we try and, for all of our meetings, have a member company host it. The CEOs and the staffs and teams that from all the companies, they like to visit each other, the different facilities. Unfortunately, a lot of them are mostly empty right now, but because of remote work. But this is being hosted November 15 and 16 in Madison. National Guardian Life is the host, and together we're working on a really, really good program. It is one of our most well-attended events. We have great content, and we also have a lot of networking time. Ken Grunbach, who is a noted demographer, is going to be speaking there. We'll have a really interesting discussion on competing successfully in pre-need. Is a lot of paint trading that goes on among the companies, and we're going to have a really productive discussion on how we can compete and grow the market the best way we can without doing some of the things that are frustrating when that happens sometimes when you compete. We're also going to be doing a pre-need and funeral industry review. And then we have a gentleman named Sheldon Bernard of a company called A440 Management, who's going to discuss effective decision-making under uncertainty. And that's really important, especially as we're coming out of COVID and dealing with things like remote work and, interest rates are up now and things like that. So the other thing we're going to do is have a panel discussion concerning funeral home consolidation. Right now, it's a challenge. It's happening a lot. There's an uptick in funeral home consolidation, and so we are going to be discussing the challenges and the opportunities of funeral home consolidation. So very packed agenda.
And just lastly, I know you got stuff to do, but
Yeah,
on a personal note, I know you're very devoted to helping veterans causes, which ties into your passion for remembering and honoring those we've lost. Just share with us a little bit more about that, why you're so passionate about that.
sure. Well, as some people may know, in 2015, my wife and I think it was 2015. Yeah, it's been 8 years now. Our son, who was in the Marines, came home and was one of the 22 a day you hear about who had PTSD and difficulty transitioning to civilian life, and he died by suicide on July 5th of that year. And we've always been a very patriotic family. My dad was in the Air Force. My brother was a Navy SEAL. Adam was in the Marines, and I've always ridden with the Patriot Guard Riders, which provides military escorts for veterans' funerals, also for public service folks, police, fire, EMS, and so I've just always had a very a great devotion to people who volunteer to put their lives on the line and the families that support them. So I ride with the Patriot Guard Riders. Recently finished a ride from here to Chicago and back, which was somewhere around 700 miles, and raised about $3,000 for an organization called Mission 22, which supports veterans transitions. We also are working with several people in Congress and the Senate on a bill that is going to be in addition to a Veterans Affairs bill that provides transition services for people who come out of the military, but specifically on those things that have to do with PTSD and veteran suicide. Bill has not made it to a committee vote yet, but it's gaining momentum, and we're really happy to support that. So
Well,
thanks for letting me mention that, by the way.
no, that is incredible. And myself and everyone in the profession really supports what you're doing, to honor our veterans and to honor your son's legacy as well. Well,
Appreciate it, Tom. Thank you.
That's Dean Lambert, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for making the time, Dean. Any final words for our audience here?
Appreciate the opportunity. I miss all my friends in funeral service, and as my life gets a little more settled, I hope to make a couple of conventions or meetings back in the old stomping grounds. I really miss it, and I respect everybody and thank everybody who supported me for the time I worked with you.
Thanks again, Dean. Have a great day.
You too.